it's Jessica from Audacity, and I am here with somebody who I have been Instagram crushing on now for about 2 months. Chef Pat Lee, how you doing?
I'm
So
doing good. How y'all doing, everybody?
we're so happy that you're here, y'all. When I tell you guys, I discovered Chef Pat Lee when he was making what was it the elote chicken wings.
Oh yeah, one of my
With the
favorites.
Trader Joe's seasoning? Yes. Yes. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is all this? I have no idea what's going on here. This looks really cool. And so then I just like kept scrolling down the page. I was like, I'm gonna follow this guy. I have no idea who he is, but I want to interview him. And I think I commented, oh my gosh, like he came through the Trader Joe's seasonings. And then he followed me back and I was like, ah, yay! And then he followed the magazine. I was like, ah, yay! So I have had an IG crush on this content for a minute. And so I was super happy when I realized that he was following the magazine as well. I'm like, well, we should just go ahead and do an interview. Let's just go ahead and like make it extra weird. So I slid in his DMs and I was like, hey, I don't want to make this more than what it is. Do you want to interview me? Or do you want to interview with me?
Oh boy.
Guys, as a journalist, you just gotta make it weird sometimes. You just gotta
Nothing
make it
wrong with it.
slide in them
Not at
DMs.
all.
Like, hey, be in the magazine. But you guys can definitely look forward to a written interview following this video one, and we're super excited to have him. So I'll go ahead and get into the real questions and everything, enough story time. Um, how did you get into cooking? Is this something you've always grown up with? Is this something you picked up like in culinary school? What sparked your interest?
So one thing that's interesting about me that a lot of people seem to be surprised about is that I've never gone to culinary school. Never worked in a restaurant, aside from maybe a couple of fast food spots when I was younger, but all of my cooking comes from just watching my grandmother, my aunt, and my mom cook when I was 7 years old. Just growing up having a love for cooking. My mom was a single mom, so she worked often 2 or 3 jobs just to provide, and I knew that we had to eat. My siblings and I had to eat, so I would, take the responsibility and just cook for the family. Um, First couple of recipes I made, I burnt. I was 7. Can't blame the kid for trying.
Right.
But through trial and error, constant practice, reading cookbooks, watching TV shows, and then, of course, as I got older and technology started to change, looking at YouTube, Googling recipes, I started to perfect my craft. About 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit, like most people, I was affected by it. I lost my job, unfortunately. And then I decided for myself, I didn't want to work for anybody else. I didn't want to take the talents that I had in corporate America and just transfer it to another company. So I decided to pursue my passion and started cooking. I started making recipes on Instagram, posted a few videos here and there, and a lot of people started to follow me and started to vibe with the fact that I was trying to be different from a lot of other creators and chefs, making, recipes from scratch, just taking things that people probably never seen before and just showing that it's actually easy to make. And then from there, I just grew my following to what it is today.
Okay, so let's get on that tip about how your content is different from other people's on Instagram. Because I feel like, especially now in this like content creator saturated society that we're in, they
hmm
think like, oh, like a magazine comes a dime a dozen, a cooking channel comes a dime a dozen, or whatever. So, in addition to cooking from scratch, what is the big thing? What is your it factor, if you will, that separates you from the other Instagram chefs?
I would say presentation. I take a lot of pride in the fact that I present my food as if I'm a professional Michelin star chef from a restaurant. Food is like art to me, not just with actually cooking it, but the mood that you have to be in, my mental state. I like to cook with a lot of love, I like to cook with a lot of passion. As you've seen from most of my recipes, I don't just throw something on a plate. I tell a story with the visuals, and then that kind of attracts people to want to check the actual recipe out. And I think that helps to have me stand out because while it's not a knock on other creators, because I admire pretty much anybody who has the guts to even post the recipe online,
Right.
but I would rather have my food tell a story and show the perfect visual. And it may not get a lot of views, then it get a lot of views, but it gets the views for the wrong reasons.
Mm. We gotta get into that because I feel like a lot of times right now, like people just want to show like the views, the impressions, the likes, and so on. But a lot of those views and impressions are not converting to actual followers or to actual, brand loyal people.
Right.
And so I feel like that's a struggle that a lot of content creators come in with. Like, even like, I'll throw myself into the bus. I'll post a reel and I'm like, wow, this is hilarious. This is good. It's relevant, so on. And I'll see that it'll get over 10,000 views. But does it convert to following? Sometimes it does. Do those followers convert to being subscribers? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So, what would you say is the key to not just getting the eyes, but getting the conversions? And if you don't know the answer, that's also okay because I don't know the answer. I think it's unique for everyone, but I'm interested in what your perspective is.
And you're absolutely right. It is unique for everyone. And I don't know the answer 100%. And I can't tell you, hey, if you do this, it's going to work. But what worked for me is actually interacting with my followers. And this is something that I try to do that helps me separate myself from other content creators. I answer pretty much anybody's DMs with the exception of the weird ones. I'll answer DMs, I'll respond in comments. If anybody has a question or wants to talk to me, I engage with them. And I feel like that's helped a lot of people see that I'm not just a creator with a big following who's just
Mm.
looking for you to engage in my content. I'm interested in what you have to post. It could be about food, it could be about journalism, it could just be about anything. I love to talk to people. I'm very social. And I think that helps people to want to follow me because they see, hey, there's a big name out there that's actually interested in me too. So let me go follow him and let me tell other people about his page as well.
Yes, I've always heard like, well, I wouldn't say I've always heard this, but like as content is evolving, one of the number one rules now is you have to give engagement to get engagement. And I think a lot of the problem with these content creators nowadays is that they want to post like celebrities. Yeah, Beyonce can throw a picture on her Instagram and then like just never speak to us again, like because she's Beyonce, like we don't expect her to respond to us in DMs or comments or anything like that. She said, here's my picture, goodbye, right? Whereas with content creators, the whole point of us creating engaging content is for us to engage with an audience and to engage with people who we want to bring into our communities and stuff. And you can't get engagement if you don't give engagement. So, I feel like that's a whole podcast right there. I feel like that's an entire segment about ways to give engagement. But I like that as your answer though, because I feel like when you do that, you make yourself more like a human being to your followers, not just like some like unattainable, like random person who makes cool stuff on the internet. Like, I feel like when it comes to content, whatever it is, you still have to show that you're a real person, especially if you don't show your face a whole lot in your content and everything. Our content completely changed when we started getting on camera.
I definitely do agree. And to kind of give a little bit of leeway to the content creators, it is challenging. Like
It
there's so
is.
many platforms out there. There's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and sometimes it can be hard to engage with your followers, especially when you have so many platforms that you have to produce content with. And then there's the editing, and it's just so much that's involved that sometimes it could be a little bit overwhelming for some people. But
Mhm.
I do say, at least in some points or some aspects, try to engage with your followers, whether it's replying to a few comments, whether it's answering DMs, whether it's going on Instagram Live. Um, I don't necessarily feel like content creators have to answer DMs, but I do feel like, especially in the cooking industry, where for people of color, people who look like us, where it's harder to get into, we should try to answer as many questions as possible or try to help the next person get to that next level because we need to network, we need to build that following, we need to see more faces like us in these spaces. And when you have somebody who makes it there not willing to help the next person out, it kind of like sets us back in some ways. That's how
I
I feel.
agree. And it's like it's not good karma in you as a professional either when you're not like willing to reach back and help or really willing to reach back and engage. Because for one thing, when you snub somebody, you lose them as audience.
Right.
Like you lose them as audience, not to mention I mean, it's like when you go to a restaurant, like, you might not necessarily you might tell two people if you have a great experience there, right? But if you have a bad experience, you're gonna tell 20 people.
Absolutely.
And I feel like if you are unkind to someone who is trying to engage with you in a positive way, then that person's going to go and tell everybody how rude you were to them. I recently had a problem with someone tried to slander one of my collaborators on my page. I was like, wait, this has nothing to do with me. This is what we're not gonna do. But and I spoke to my collaborator and everything. I was like, yo, like, I'm gonna delete this comment before anybody sees it and everything. But just FYI, like, if she's willing to come to my platform and talk trash about you, this person might be on other platforms dissing you as well. So you might
Hmm.
want to get in front of it. I don't know what happened. I don't particularly like I'm not particularly invested in what happened. Like, I don't necessarily believe the things that this person is saying. However, you might want to get in front of it because this could hurt your reputation as a business owner. And I think it can go either way. Like, if someone's disgruntled with you, whether it's your fault or not, then it can spiral, and it doesn't set us up to be able to be a united front as a community, both as people of color, or in my case, like, our magazines for millennials and Gen Z. And so we try to create situations where everybody can be equal on equal playing fields and be able to move as a united front to advance their careers. But you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful how you move with folks, and you have to watch people. You have to really be careful as to, like, not just how you behave, but who you bring into your community, because not everybody has the best intentions.
That's definitely true.
Whew. All right, I have a few more questions. Fear not, I have a few more questions. So,
Sure, sure.
I know you say you haven't been to culinary school, which I think is actually extremely impressive. But I think it also shows that raw talent is raw talent regardless. So, and that practice makes perfect, whether you went to school or not. So, what are your opinions on not just culinary school, but school for learning skills in general versus the school of life, if you will?
It depends. I feel like as someone who went to college and didn't isn't doing what I went to college for. I went to school for human resources, but I do feel like there are some aspects of school that can be applied to business. A lot of what I learned in school and in the corporate world, I apply to my own personal business now. But I do feel like a lot of times life experience kind of trumps school in
Mm-hmm.
some aspects.
Mm-hmm.
It is harder for a lot of people to go to culinary school because if you want to go to the best schools, they're expensive. Um, it's a bit of a learning curve, but I also feel like we're in the world that we're in now. Technology is everywhere. There's so many resources. There's YouTube, there's Wikipedia, there's LinkedIn Learning, there's just general networking overall.
Yeah.
That someone like myself, for example, when I first started becoming a chef, it didn't matter how big a person's following was. It didn't matter if they were a smaller creator. It didn't matter if they didn't have Instagram at all and were just somebody who was a line cook. I asked questions. I networked with people. I got to know people. I studied people's crafts. Actually went into restaurants to interview people. I looked up recipes on YouTube, spent countless hours writing out recipes and just practicing in my kitchen. But a lot of those times, those experiences help you to do certain things that maybe culinary school won't necessarily teach you. I kind of attribute it to when you work a corporate job and they have you onboarded and trained for like the first couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The information is just thrown at you and you're just studying and learning. But then once you actually get your hands on everything, that's when things start to click together and you actually start to understand. And I apply this, excuse me, I apply the same things to cooking. Like you can go to school, you can be told, hey, this is how you're properly supposed to cut an onion, or this is the proper way to cook a beef Wellington. But unless you actually get it in yourself and actually practice it, it's not going to be as helpful. So school is great to go to. I don't knock college. I most certainly went, and I definitely do think, if that's the path that you want to go to, by all means do it. But it's not something that you have to do. Like there's other ways that you can succeed without necessarily going to school. You just have to have a game plan, and you have to have a plan for what's going to happen if you fail. How are you going to bounce back? It's
Yeah.
always important.
You gotta be honest with yourself too. I feel like a lot of times people are like, "Oh, like you should just jump in by faith," and I'm like, "Yes, you should. Yes, you should." But also be honest with yourself. Like, if someone tells me I'm gonna go be a singer, and I know for a fact that they cannot sing, I'm gonna hope that they know. It's not my place to tell them they're a bad singer, but I'm gonna hope that they know that they're not vocalists. And so I'm like, okay, you're gonna go be a singer or you're gonna go be a performer, you know? And so on and so on and so on. Like I never believe in sprinkling doubt in people's plans, but like it definitely takes some serious honesty with yourself if you want your brand to be successful. I've had to have some serious conversations with myself about Audacity time and time again, just to make sure that, we're still following our mission, that we are still creating content that is engaging and like doing fun interviews. So I think it definitely takes like a certain level of honesty as the person who is taking control of their own career. Because if you're going to do the school of life, or not, whether you go to school or you do the school of life, you're going to have to eventually take responsibility for however things turn out in your career going forward. And I think that's something to make sure to keep in the forefront as well. Like, be honest about what you can and can't do. Be honest about your weak spots. That way you can fix, or not necessarily fix them, but work on them, because some things are not like 100% or overnight. But that being said, that also segues me into my next question. Um, have you ever had a situation where you were prepping content and you made a mistake with the food and had to refilm the whole thing?
Feel like this is stemming from our conversation from earlier. Yeah. So I was making two mistakes actually. So I was actually making a seafood pot pie, and I was actually interested in it because I've not to say that I don't think anyone else has made it before, but I did think it was something that was fresh to people's eyes that no one's probably seen in a while. I took all the possible steps to make it from scratch, and once the recipe was done, I realized I didn't hit record on my phone.
No!
So it was hours and hours of footage that I thought I had, and all I had was just a picture of the pie.
Oh no.
And I was upset.
I
And
believe that.
and of course I made it again and recorded it. So it's gonna be posted within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, there have been times before where I've made recipes and I did not record, or as with most people probably happen when you record something and you find out that your phone has run out of space. So then you
Hmm.
got to go back and delete videos and just kind of like adjust from there.
Right.
Um, Recipe wise, as far as actually making a mistake, um, I actually posted a few mistakes before on my page. There was one recipe I tried to make where I was trying to replicate this Japanese egg. I'm not sure if you've seen it before, but they take like the chopsticks on the egg and they kind of twist it around to form like this weird shape. I'll tag you in it.
Yeah.
But I tried to replicate the recipe and ended up making scrambled eggs. It it wasn't one of my proudest moments, but it was a lesson that I learned that nobody's perfect. You make
Right.
mistakes, but you just adjust and move on and just keep practicing until you eventually get it.
Yeah, I lean into them sometimes, especially when a mistake happens on camera. It's just like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? Either I can lean into this and still have content, or I can just pitch a bit about it. I don't know. I enjoy sometimes making mistakes on camera. I think I've done an interview before where like someone's dog started barking. They're like, "You're gonna cut that out, right?" I was like, "No, I will do no such thing. I would do no such thing. We're gonna keep it real here," because the idea of making mistakes and normalizing them, I think, is good. Because I don't know, I want to see like your perfect content and stuff all the time. People like seeing that. Like, I feel like it's part of like increasing the engagement and making yourself more human to
I
followers.
agree.
Like posting mistakes is never, in my personal opinion, a bad thing unless you just, lit your kitchen on fire or something. Then please stop recording and like, fix it. But please stop recording if you light your kitchen on fire. But okay, so you said you've actually posted your mistakes before. How did it feel? Was that your first time, or did you feel liberated by it? Did you feel like, whatever, fuck it? Like, how did you feel being like, okay, guys, I kind of messed this up here, but here you go?
I didn't feel bad at all. I felt that I wanted to
Good.
show that human side of me that, hey,
Yeah.
sometimes I fuck up, sometimes I don't, but at the same time, I I made it. Like I want to see someone else try the same thing and tell me they perfected it.
Yeah.
Actually, someone did and tagged me, but they got blocked a while ago. But that's another story. But yeah, it's okay to post mistakes. Like we're not
Yeah.
perfect. I haven't been doing this for quite some time, so I know for a fact that there's going to be moments where I mess up the plating, or the occasional mistake will happen where you try to perfect cheese pull and then everything just falls apart in the plate. But these things happen. That's what people like to see. They like to see that. I don't know, not even just with like the human side of it, but just people just want to see people fail. So I feel like if you want to see me fail, okay, well, let me bring it to the plate myself instead of having you call me out on it.
That's a really interesting perspective because, like, saying like people like seeing other people fail from time to time, and just remembering that there was so much content before we even got into social media, just literally of people failing. Like we had ridiculousness and was America's Funniest Home Videos, Kids Say the Darndest Things. Like there has been content that's literally like the base of the content is people failing and embarrassing themselves on national television or on home videos in this case, because half of these folks probably had no idea this was going to be on national television. But I mean, when you fail online or on camera, it does kind of seem to have some kind of not permanence, but like there is this perception that like because it happens specifically on camera that it's going to have some kind of bigger impact. I feel like a lot of people feel like the stakes are raised when cameras are in front of them. So, would you say that you feel the same when you feel on camera versus when you feel off camera?
I feel like if my mistakes are done on camera, they may have a longer lasting effect, but like with anything on social media, people will forget it in like a matter of moments. I've seen constant celebrities get in trouble for making obscene comments, for doing the most
Right,
ridiculous things. And
right,
people say, oh, cancel this person, we're done with that person. And then a few weeks later, people forget about it.
right,
And I would apply the same thing to my cooking. Like, yeah, if I get on camera, make a mistake, someone's going to make a comment or call me out on it. But then a week from now, that same person will probably like and share my post. It's just a
mhm,
matter of how you handle that situation, going forward. Own up to whatever mistake you make. We're all human, these things happen. And unfortunately, we're not in the age where you could make a mistake and it's not recorded. Like it's not like back in the day
right.
when I was a kid and I could do something stupid like, wrestling with my friends or slap boxing and then no one records it. Like nowadays people have their phones out and what you do in your private life is now public. But
Yeah,
just a matter of just owning it, saying, okay, hey, I fucked up, I made a mistake. I'm
right,
moving on. You can move on too. Because, you know, your mistake one week will be someone else's mistake next week, and then people move on to that person. So
right,
everybody has their time where they get embarrassed or something stupid happens. It's just a matter of how you own up to it and how you move forward.
right. Absolutely, I agree 100%. Moving away from mistakes and looking more so at successes. So I could talk about mistakes all day. I think they turn to comedic gold from time to time. But moving more onto your successes, what would you say so far has been your proudest moment as a chef?
Proudest moment as a chef. If I can narrow it down to one.
You can.
I would probably say my articles that have been featured. There have been quite a few featured. My most recent one was actually published by I forgot the name of the company. TheKitchen.com. They're a very popular website and Instagram page that features a lot of famous chefs. And Pepsi had actually partnered with them to feature one of my chicken wing recipes. And that's kind of big for me, for someone who's only been doing this professionally for 2 years, to actually go from, just trying to build a small following to having my articles and my recipes published. I think it speaks to my dedication of trying to perfect my craft and trying to get my name out there.
Nice. Okay, cool. So, staying in the vein of favorites and everything, what would you say has been your favorite recipe that you've posted so far? Never mind what got the most reception, but like, what was the one that you had the most fun doing?
I would probably say your favorite recipe, the elote chicken wings. And that was because I've made plenty of chicken wing recipes before, but This was actually one where I got to use my dehydrator. For people who know me, or if you don't know me now, I have a lot of kitchen gadgets that have not been used. I just get them and go, okay, one day I'm going to make something with this, and then it never happens. And so one day I was just thinking to myself, I wanted to do something different with chicken wings and kind of step out the box a bit. So I put corn in the dehydrator and I decided to just keep it there for a while until I was able to turn it to a powder. And then from there, the recipe just started coming to my head like, hey, do this with the corn and then do this with the chicken. And then after that, when I tasted it, like I think you've seen the video, but like my
Yeah.
actual reaction in the video was like legit. It was actually real. It wasn't staged. Like that's how I actually felt
Oh, nice.
about eating the chicken. And I didn't care whether or not it went viral. I didn't know that I was gonna, blow up like it did. I was just happy that I was able to do something different. And it was actually the very first recipe that I did where I actually was proud of my presentation. Like I've done recipes before prior to that where the presentation was okay. And even looking back there, I could have done better, but that was the first one was I was actually proud of how it came out in pictures, how it actually tasted. And then from there, I kind of switched up a bit of my recipes to focus more on the presentation side, but I felt like that's the one that kind of started it all.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Stupid question.
There are no stupid questions.
Good, because I'm about to ask one. What is a dehydrator?
So a dehydrator is a machine that people use to essentially take the moisture out of whatever food you put in there and dry it out. So let's say if you put corn in there, corn has a lot of moisture in it, but once you put it in the dehydrator, it stiffens it up. So this way you can grind it to a powder, or let's say if you dehydrate chopped up apples, you can make them into chips. It's a way a lot of chefs make beef jerky, taking steak, cutting it thinly, seasoning it, marinating it. You put the steak in the dehydrator and then it thins it out to where it's actually chewable. But I wanted one a couple of years ago, and that was probably one of the first times I used it.
Is it like a big machine or
It's big.
like it is? Okay.
Yeah, they actually have dehydrators that actually fold. Mine's is in like this big ass giant box, but yeah,
They fold. Okay, I learned things. This is why we're here. Okay, cool. All right, I think I've covered pretty much everything, but we are so happy that you joined us today, and we look forward to working more with you, learning more about you. Y'all, make sure you follow Cooking with Pat Lee. I will tag it in the comments, in the caption, and make sure you check out our next interview, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here.
I love it. I hope that this isn't the last time you guys speak with me. I
It's
definitely want to do
not.
this again.
Oh no, we've decided this already. Like, no, 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 no. It is not the last time. We're gonna be hanging out for a little bit.
That's that Leo energy.
Exactly, exactly. I've made decisions. It's happening. All right, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.